So welcome everyone to DBT Office Hours. For those of you who haven't joined us before, my name's Claire, I'm the DBT Community Manager. If you haven't joined Office Hours before, what are they exactly? They are a place for sort of the makers in our community to share things that they're working on. We've had a bunch of different office hours over the past few weeks. People, talking about how they share data with other companies or how they get data out of their warehouse and into their marketing platforms. So these an hour each week where we chat with someone who's working on something, working on a DBT project, and they're sharing what they're working on. We also have time at the end for anyone who's working on using DBT at the moment and just wants to ask a question. So I've had people ask me really gnarly questions about snapshots, and we were able to dive into their code and do it all during office hours. So there's a bit of time for that at the end. And if anyone found their way here, but they're not part of the DBT community, you can join at slack.getdbt.com, which will actually redirect to community.getdbt.com. I got this wrong last week and changed it back, and now it's wrong because we turned on community.getdbt. So one day I'll get this link right, but for now it redirects the right place, so it doesn't matter too much. Today I am joined by Kristin from Fivetran, and Kristin has been working on some DBT packages lately and is going to share with us some of the work she's been doing. So I'm going to stop my share and pass over to you.
Cool. Hey everyone, I'm Kristin. I'm a senior data analyst at Fivetran, and I've been working a bunch on creating DBT packages for our community. And have 3 that we've launched already, and we're making a bunch more. So excited to be here and chat through just kind of what our package is, how the process we go through to create these packages, and what's available for you and how to use these packages. So firstly, I want to start off by polling all of you to better understand kind of whether or not you use DBT packages, and also whether you use Fivetran or maybe a different ETL tool. So super interested to understand here.
This is my very first time actually doing a poll in Zoom, and it's very fun.
It looks like it's working.
Yeah. Normally I'm like, give me a thumbs up, and then I'm trying to read every single tile at once, and I'm like thumbs up for this or clap for the other one, which is a terrible way to do a poll.
Cool. Okay, so it seems like mostly everyone has voted already, so I guess I'll just end this poll. Okay, so it looks like just over half of you all have used DBT packages in the past. A quarter, haven't used them, but have an understanding of what they are. And then some haven't used. Okay, great. And then about a third of you use Fivetran, and just over half haven't used Fivetran, but know what it is. And 2 people don't know what Fivetran is. Okay, so let me stop sharing the poll results. So let me share my screen now, and I can get into. I've prepared a couple of slides. This is going to be pretty informal, so please, if you have any questions, as I'm walking through the slides, just feel free to unmute yourself and hop in and interrupt me. I don't want to just talk at you. I want this to be a collaborative conversation. So firstly, for those of you who don't know what DBT packages are, I learned about DBT packages a few months ago, and they are incredible. They are essentially packages. They're projects that you install into your DBT, your own DBT project. So there are generally 2 main use cases for packages. One, which we'll dive into, which are what I'm creating, are models. So you have transformed SQL queries that you make available to the community, and they're really great for any like one particular source data, or for sources that have like industry standard metrics, or something that any code that analysts are recreating. If you're reinventing the wheel, like no one should be reinventing the wheel, so let's just make this code available for everyone to use. The other use case of packages are macros. So I'm sure a lot of you have used the dbt utils package, and if you haven't, let's look at it. This is, I highly suggest you go over to dbt hub and look at this package. It has helped me tremendously. It's essentially a set of macros that you can install in your package and really help you with any like complex SQL querying. So for example, they have a macro that you can pivot some data from columns to, or from rows to columns. So it's super helpful. Cool. Was that clear? Does everyone understand what a package is? Also, I can't actually see everyone, so if you want me to go through it more, please just unmute yourself and let me know. Cool. Okay. Where can I see available dbt packages? So dbt has, as I mentioned, dbt hub, and this is where you can see all of the available packages that dbt offers right now. It includes both the modeling and the macro packages. The packages that I've created are down here: Salesforce, Mailchimp, and NetSuite. And for today, we'll really be diving into the NetSuite package because it's the one that I'm most familiar with and have taken a ton of time to do pretty complex modeling around how to recreate like the balance sheet and income statement and things like that. Before I dive into that, I want to talk through the roadmap. So as I mentioned, we've created NetSuite, or not, our team has created NetSuite, Salesforce, and Mailchimp. We are currently in like the final version, working on the final version of GitHub. So we're ready for beta testers right now. So if you're a GitHub user, please message me if you're interested in helping out with beta testing the packages. It's super helpful for us. I'm also working on Zendesk. Marketo's coming out soon. Stripe's also in our pipeline. And for future packages, these are a few that we're thinking of. Stripe, Jira, HubSpot, Asana, Shopify, Intercom, Mixpanel, etc. But honestly, we love to hear from our customers and understand what they think would be most helpful and add most value to them. So please, message me. And it looks like someone's chatted me. Sorry. Yeah, please message me. I'd love to hear from you. So it looks like Nolan asked, how source specific are these packages? Are they very closely related to how Fivetran syncs data? Yes, so they are built on top of Fivetran's standardized schema. So all of our customers, when they are syncing their application data using Fivetran, have the same schema, which allows us to generate these packages with very little customization needed by the customer. That being said, so it works pretty seamlessly with Fivetran. That being said, if you don't use Fivetran, I still think you could find value in the the SQL code and just trying to understand how I'm transforming data and then apply that to your, how you have the data structured.
I'm going to quickly chime in there.
Yeah.
We've worked with some packages, not these newer ones, but some ones that we've built previously across 2 different ETL providers, or EL providers. And it does work. Generally, like, you might have to rename a column to something else before you like can sort of pass it through the package. But we've managed to, like, because Fivetran is, returning the data that the API is returning as close as possible to what that API spec is, and other tools do the same thing. Generally, they end up pretty much pretty similarly structured.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the source, but in general, yeah, you should be able to use it with any other provider. Cool. So now let's talk through the process of building a package. So one thing that I do that's super helpful for me when I'm initially building a package is talking with all of you, understanding, what you're doing with your source data, how you're modeling it, any pain points that have been encountered when modeling data. The whole goal of creating these packages is to make, customers' lives easier, make analysts' lives easier, so that they can better understand their data and get answers quicker. So once I've talked to a handful of customers, I try to think through what is possible to create with this source, that is generic enough, that involves little customization, because really I need to generate the query in a way that it will work accurately for everyone. So that's pretty important. So generally when, we talk to customers, if they're doing some, if they have some customization and they're building this really specific model, it's not a good candidate for a package model. It's generally something that, they'll have to write on their own. And yeah, then after I have like a good understanding of what I want to build, I spend some time really understanding the source application and getting to better know the schema. For every source, Fivetran provides an ERD on our doc site. So I spend a lot of time just like studying that and understanding how the different tables relate to one another. Next, and this is probably the largest part of building a package, is drafting queries and testing those queries. Yeah, this is like the bulk of the work, just making sure that your queries work. If a source application has, like a login or their user interface, if they have a reporting tool, like making sure that the query results match the reporting tool. And next, building the package. So once the queries are done, I convert those SQL queries into dbt models. I use dbt utils on all of the packages so far, for the cross database macros. All of the packages are compatible across Redshift, BigQuery, and Snowflake. And so in order to make this possible, we utilize some of the macros that Claire and her team have built. Not lastly, but we also add documentation. So we add documentation to both all of the source tables that are coming in through Fivetran, and then also the transformed models. So this just means adding descriptions to tables, adding descriptions to columns, etc. We also add testing. So for example, dbt has like a non-null and a unique test you can run on any column of data. And we do that for all of the primary keys. They also have a couple of other tests that are pretty helpful. After this is all done, we ping the DBT Slack channel and ask for beta testers, and try to get users to test out this package, make any revisions to that, and then post it on DBT Hub. And yeah, after it's posted on the hub, obviously we as bug reports come in, and I continue to learn more about what makes a good package, we do more revision. And so the package I want to talk through is NetSuite. So it's a pretty complicated product. How many people use NetSuite? Give me a thumbs up if you use NetSuite. I don't even know if I'd be able to see all of you, but okay, it looks like one person, two people, three. Okay, 3 to 4. Great. Cool. So for the 3 to 4 people who have used NetSuite, if you also have used Fivetran, you likely know that once you bring in all of your NetSuite data to your warehouse, there are a lot of tables, and it's very complex. And so,
sorry, just very quickly, what is another tool that NetSuite is similar to? Is it a CRM?
It's a financial accounting tool. So
okay.
QuickBooks. QuickBooks is the main one I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking accounting principles, getting numbers to match up correctly, missing dollars and cents, things that a lot of people could probably empathize with.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing, whenever you're talking accounting and finance, everything needs to be perfect. And so the dollars and cents really, truly matter.
Yeah.
And so when you're recreating financial statements, it's not like you're okay with getting 99% there, right? Because if you're, pushing this to investors, everything needs to be perfect. So
that was the accountant's going to say, well, if it's missing $10, how am I not sure that it's actually missing 1,000? And then it's subtracting 1,000 and adding 990, if the sum's off by $10. So yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking from experience where I've felt that pain before or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I haven't been a financial analyst myself, but I felt like a financial analyst as I was building this package. And as I was, building the balance sheet query in particular, it was a very iterative process of me downloading, our balance sheet, comparing every single month and every single account, and just making sure they were, exactly equal to each other. And it was, it gets really complex as businesses get complex. So as you add subsidiaries, as you transact in foreign currencies, the exchange rate got really, really complicated. It's pretty difficult. So the one very, very great thing about NetSuite, though, is it's not a very customizable tool. You can integrate it with other products, but to recreate the balance sheet, you only need NetSuite data. To recreate the income statement, you only need NetSuite data. And to do a bunch of other financial analysis, you really only need that core NetSuite data. So I think this package is very out of the box and user friendly, where you can install the package and, in a very short amount of time, have the balance sheet, and have, there's a transaction details model, which essentially enables you to build things. It's a starting point to build out like a sales dashboard or an expense dashboard, or, understand accounts receivable and accounts payable. This is an example of the docs for the NetSuite package. And so we have a bunch of different models here, but the main ones are the balance sheet, the income statement, and the transaction details here. And if you look at the lineage graph, I love these. They're so pretty, but you can see like the balance sheet here. Let me just pull up the balance sheet. You can see here all of the source tables it uses, all of the transformations, the intermediate transformations that take place, and then the final model is the balance sheet. Cool. Does anyone have any questions so far? Cool. All right. Let me go back to my slides and move on. So this is kind of meant to be more of an open conversation, but this is how I'm thinking about packages in general and plans for the future. So the plan for Fivetran's packages moving forward is really to have 2 packages per source that work together seamlessly. So the first package, it will be a package that focuses on enriching source data. So when you use Fivetran, you get all of your source data into your data warehouse, and then you're left with a bunch of tables. You have documentation in Fivetran's docs, which has like an ERD to show you how they relate. But the idea behind this package is to really enhance that source data with things like descriptions for every table, descriptions for every column, maybe some staging tables that do things that maybe rename some fields, or do some simple, I don't know, cleaning around, like removing fields that are deleted, that type of thing. And then having a modeling package which focuses on the transformations, and would work seamlessly with the source package. So you'd essentially download the model package. The model would have a dependency on the source package, so both would download together. And that's where all of the data transformation would live. And the idea behind this is that we know that especially our existing customers have already done the modeling and the transformation of the source package, but the source enrichment is very valuable for them. So we thought, splitting it up into 2 would be a good move, and would allow, both use cases to get value from these DBT packages. The next thing is creating packages with incremental modeling. I know that this is like pretty complicated in DBT, and that it adds a lot of value. So we're looking to add incremental modeling where it makes sense. Refactoring existing packages to apply learnings. Like I said, I learned about packages 2 to 3 months ago. I'm still learning. It's been really fun, and I look at some of my old code and I already know that I want to go back and change it. So yeah, refactoring existing packages is definitely something I'm interested in. And I'll open it up. Does anyone have any ideas around what they're interested in seeing in future packages, or maybe what they've used in a package that has been valuable? All right. Cool.
I was just going to say, I haven't used like the I haven't used kind of the wholesale package approach, or like kind of known source full transformation to the endpoint. I've used the like DBT utils sort of thing
Mm,
where it's like, little pieces one at a
yeah,
time. But I'm like this approach I'm very excited about because of course like this is how we like significantly scale our ability to like do this data warehousing approach. I was curious
yeah.
if you can talk about Fivetran's approach, like, how, do they have do you have like kind of a specific approach to how you do data warehousing? Like, do you think at all about dimensional modeling in the process, or like what would we expect to find in one of these packages?
Um, do you mean in terms of like how the packages are structured, or
Yeah, and
do
like kind of
so,
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
or are you talking more about like how Fivetran structures the schema like prior to it arriving in the data warehouse?
More the former, like what do the transformations
Yep.
look like, and are there like what does kind of the end result of that look like?
Yeah, definitely. So the NetSuite package I think looks very different than what our kind of standard is going to look like in the future. I think the Mailchimp package and the Salesforce package right now are more representative of kind of how the models would be structured, where first we have a set of like base staging models where we do the initial like cleaning of the data, recasting or not recasting, excuse me, renaming some of the columns. Simple things like ID should be account ID if it's in the account table, that type of thing. So it makes for easier modeling in the future, and also it enables you to easily add additional fields if you need to customize it. So making that those staging models is definitely like a core principle that I want to adopt. And then having intermediate models where any like helper transformations are done, and then having the output final models um, as things that the analysts can then just persist as tables in their warehouse. Um, my kind of idea is, I think most sources have really this idea of kind of like one or two really core tables. And I'm finding that a lot of times customers really want to enrich those core models with aggregations. So, for example, we're building out GitHub right now, and really at the core of GitHub are pull requests and issues, right? And so customers want to see um, metrics around those, right? Like how long it's taking a pull request to be reviewed, how long how long it takes between the initial review and the merge, things like that. So really enriching those core tables. And then also, maybe if a snapshot makes sense, or not like a snapshot in not a DBT snapshot, but kind of like a sales snapshot. So like, for example, in our Salesforce package, we have a table that provides a very simple snapshot where every time you run the table, you can see a quick view of how your pipeline is performing. So things around, yeah, like your pipeline, how many opportunities are in your pipeline right now, how long they've been in the pipeline, how many bookings you have, how many losses you have, things like that. Yeah, so it all varies a bit by source, but that's kind of their approach we're taking. The other thing we're thinking is that for connectors of the same type, it would be really cool to have models that output data in the same format. So, for example, if you're using a bunch of ad connectors, right? if you want to combine all of your ad connectors and understand that data across all of your sources, if we could have one output model that you could then union across all your sources, that'd be really cool. Cool. Looks like we have more chat. How do you see these packages being used if, for example, we had a NetSuite and a QuickBooks or several ad connectors? Great. That brings me to my next slide, which is what can I do after dbt deps dbt run? And dbt deps dbt run are the two commands you run to install a package and then run the models you've just installed. And I see people building BI tools, or sorry, powering their BI tools with these models, building dashboards. So these are two dashboards I built in Looker using our NetSuite package. So you can, add some visualization on top of your models. You can use the models to answer ad hoc questions. You can automate tasks using the models. You can do a whole bunch of things with them.
Krishna, was your question more around if you're using like multiple, like you're using QuickBooks and NetSuite, like how can these packages play together?
Yes, or how, yeah, that's right. And would you combine them into one model? Would you take the models produced by these two packages and combine them? Or what would you do?
Package. Chris, do you want me to answer this one? Because I've actually got a little bit of experience on this front. Or like, feel free to.
Yeah. Go for it.
We did this once in the packages that we were writing. We haven't done a lot of love for our packages recently. We did a lot of work on like ad platforms, and really all the packages were doing were casting everything to the same structure, so that then this like downstream package could union everything together. So there's a world where like these things become possible. I think the way we did it was like a little flakier, not flaky, but like we just did it as little as possible to make it work. We didn't invest a ton of time in it. So I think one of the cool things is, in the future, if like you're using ad platforms and Kristin and Fivetran have very strong conventions around this is the structure of the data we're aiming for, I definitely think there's an opportunity to like be able to mix and match those packages and like build, union them together in a really easy way so they sort of play nicely.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Another question from Patrick. Is the balance sheet model more of a live view showing the current balance? No, it's not. The balance sheet is for historical reporting purposes. So it shows all of your accounts for all of your historical accounting period end dates.
Yeah, I remember you saying that previously if you wanted the point in time, you had to like make sure you set a calendar reminder to download it on the first of the month. Otherwise.
Yeah, so with the balance sheet specifically, one thing I learned when I was, constantly bugging our VP of Finance to make sure I was creating the right thing and trying to understand NetSuite a bit more is that you can't, when you're in NetSuite and you view a balance sheet, you can actually only pull it for 1 month at a time. And so say you pull it for April and you want to then compare that data to what the balance sheet looked like in March, you actually have to like download that data, maybe upload it to Excel or something, and then go and pull the same report for March and then upload it into Excel and then do your comparisons. And so this package actually enables you to, see all of the accounting periods side by side, and then you can do, your variance analysis and things like that. Cool. Well, that's all I had prepared for today.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Let's say that someone starts using this package and they want to make an improvement, maybe add some extra columns, anything like that. What would the process look like there?
Definitely. Please, we are, this is open source. We want everyone to contribute. If you see a bug, please, report that through creating an issue. If you want to fix the bug, feel free to open a pull request, against the repository. Contributions are definitely welcome. So please feel free to contribute.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like having previously used looker blocks in a previous life, and having to make the changes to your own SQL, and then that never gets updated because no motivation to once you've already copied and pasted it. So definitely a path improved.
So Quentin asked, would it be possible to package custom materialization? Claire, maybe you want to take this one? So custom materializations are they're pretty much macros under the hood. And so we've already done this once before in DBT utils. There's a custom materialization called insert by period, which is for like really big tables where when you need to refresh the data, you can't process everything at once. More of a problem if you're on Redshift rather than some of the newer warehouses where you can just like increase your compute. But I wrote that a long time ago so that I would like process a week at a time. And so that's just an example of being able to build custom materializations. I'll drop the link in. So that's definitely a thing that can be put into packages. I think Fivetran are more on the modeling side rather than the macro side, which I'm very excited about because I don't get to model data as often. So I'm glad these packages exist. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi, this is Brian. I had a question about Fivetran's commitment to these packages. Like, is there like a longer term commitment to keeping these packages maintained?
Yes, this is now my full-time job, and we have also hired someone on my team. So we are very committed. We're trying to, create as many packages as possible and support as many of our sources as possible. So we are very committed.
That is
I was going to say
cool.
something here. My name is Craig Wright. I'm a partner engineer at Fivetran, but I've worked like at places like Twitter and Yahoo, kind of next to DevRel and open source teams. And I've been beating that drum pretty loudly in the company, like, all right, we're signing up forever to do 100 packages. So that's kind of been like my big thing, is to kind of make sure everybody understands what that means. And just the whole open source thing is new for Fivetran. So like, what does it mean to have, code of conduct, and what it means to contribute and all this kind of stuff. So we're definitely thinking about that very seriously. It's new for us, and there's going to be like, we're just getting it launched, but it's like, we're pretty serious about it.
Thank y'all so much. I love it. I think it's so great. It's a great contribution to the community.
Amazing. Randy, you had a question. Do you want to unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and go for it?
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Randy. I had a question about publishing packages. Can anyone publish to DBT Hub? And if so, how does that work? I didn't see instructions on the site.
So yes, the answer is yes. Kristin, do you want to share your screen and show one of the pull requests you've made to add a package?
Let me find that pull request, and then yes.
Kristin searches for that. I'll explain. Previously, the answer was no, just because it could happen, but the repo was private, and the list of packages lived somewhere on a computer in the cloud rather than in version control. We made some changes so that hub.getdbt.com, the source code for that, is public. And if you do want to add a package, you can just PR that repo, add your GitHub organization name and the repo name. And then we had a discussion about this internally, sort of like, do we want to be gatekeepers of like who gets to be on this list and who's not? And what we've kind of landed on is packages for all. So we're going to say yes to all packages unless they look extremely terrible, just because the maintenance burden of checking every single one's going to be really hard. So we're going to make some changes on our side. So this is what it looked like for Kristin to add the Salesforce package. We're making some changes on the hub side to make it clearer in terms of like which ones are like first class, Fishtown endorsed packages versus which ones are community contributions. But as of today, if you make a PR to that page, do you mind dropping the link in the chat, Kristin?
I did.
Yeah, you can get your package added pretty quickly.
And what are the standards around that? So if I decide to build a package, but I only use Snowflake, right? I'm not perfectly, I can't write it for Redshift.
Yeah.
Still able to publish, or do you guys prefer that packages work across all warehouses?
We've just decided we're going to be agnostic about this, and
okay.
Is that the right word? I think so. Like we're not going to care too much about which ones go. Like, we're not going to enforce super like strict standards. We want more people contributing.
Okay, and now is that something you guys struggle with when you build DBT utils, or even Fivetran when you build your macros or your packages, that you might be able to do something a little more advanced in one warehouse, but you decide, like, how do you balance equality across the warehouses with adding additional features?
Yeah, I mean, Kristin, in your NetSuite package, you had like on Snowflake where you can use array ag and nice JSON function.
Yeah.
On BigQuery, BigQuery as well, but then on Redshift, JSON functions.
Yeah. So in order for it to be Redshift compatible, I had to actually like change the code a little bit. But in general, for things that aren't like array ags, are a bit tricky, but for most of the use cases, you can use DBT utils. It has a set of cross-database macros that are very, very helpful for that.
Yeah, so if it's like the fact that the date add syntax is different on different warehouses, we already have like those utils helper macros to sort of gloss over that. Sometimes it is a little harder because the data just comes in a fundamentally different structure. If like for some data sources, the like E&L tools will be smart about, okay, you're on Snowflake or BigQuery, we're going to keep this as a nested array, whereas on Redshift, we're going to split it out into a different table. And we actually made some changes in 0.17.0, which is coming out, that we just announced the release candidate 10 minutes ago, and it should be published in about 2 weeks, which make it easier to like turn models off and on for depending on which warehouse you're on. So you can start to do things like that, like create totally different queries for different warehouses and optimize each model for each warehouse, and then selectively turn it off and on in your config files.
Awesome, thanks.
Cool. Any other questions? We had a question that already got answered in the chat, so that's good. Can you create private packages? Yes, you can. As Craig noted, you just need the Git URL. We've seen companies do that, especially like ad agencies who have, a set of transformations that you use for clients that are doing very similar analyses. I know we've got some ad agencies who sort of use their private packages to be more efficient in how they work with those customers. Oh my gosh, an ad agency, perfect.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention about that is that you could totally just, like, on the topic of private packages, you could totally just fork our public packages, like, replumb it and just keep it private and use it, So, I mean, like, that's one of the things I think is super cool about DBT is it opens up a lot of these, like we publish all these packages with all these models. Great if you use Fivetran. If you don't, take it and change it, use it. So I really like that aspect of this, and keep it private, or probably don't republish ours. I don't know what the rules are there, but you can totally reuse them.
Have the same name. I think that might break.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I think we're all good. Thank you so much, Kristin, for joining us. And thank you for writing these packages as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're looking forward to testing out the GitHub package that's coming up. Surprise, surprise, we use GitHub. So it's going to be good to see some metrics, and we can start to build some models about like contributions, especially to maybe like utils and some of our other packages. You know, that'll be pretty meta, using a package to analyze contributions to our packages. I'm going to give it a go. Why not? So yeah, thank you so much, Kristin. Thank you, Craig, for chiming in as well. One last thing, Andrew reminded me of this. We're going to have there's a webinar coming up. Is that right?
Thank you, Claire. I forgot about that.
So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
May 28th. Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks, Claire. Yeah, it's May 28th. It'll be featuring a customer actually using DBT. It's not the Fivetran packages, but nonetheless, you can see the packages they developed for their own environment. They use Fivetran and Snowflake, by the way.
Yeah. Cool. And the team at
I just posted a link to that webinar in the chat.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to stick around in case anyone wants to ask any questions about their DBT project. But for those of you who just came to learn about packages, thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next week, or we'll see you on Slack sometime soon. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kristin.